Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 23 career mode, and today we're here for the 13th round of my full Moto3 season for the Catalan Grand Prix, of course, at the circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya. Now, if you didn't see the previous episode at the Austrian Grand Prix, you really should go check it out because it was probably the strangest, most interesting race we've had so far. A race of two halves, if you will, with the way it works, so definitely go check that one out if you haven't seen it already. But of course, the AI completely lost the plot after about halfway through the race. They started riding off the track. We had race leaders crashing out left and right. We had people running off the circuit. We went from battling on the fringes of the top 10 to all of a sudden battling for the lead. But unfortunately, we didn't really have the fuel to make it to the end of the race at the leader's pace. I had to turn the engine down and it kind of resigned us back to P5. But even still, it was a pretty good result and did help us, I guess, in our current objective, which of course is to be in the top 5 after this Grand Prix. So we do need to still do a little bit of work to get that, but it did limit the damage quite a bit. You can see we've also got to beat Joel Kelso in this one as well, as he now absolutely hates us after a little bit of contact that we did have in the previous one. But without any further ado, let's head into the Catalan Grand Prix a lot later in the season than we're used to, but hopefully the pace is good. So unfortunately then, at the end of free practice, the AI simulated times have struck again. Now I say at the end of practice, but to be honest, the writing was on the wall before we even got into FP2, because I simulated FP1 and just skipped it. I didn't have it ticked in the list that you have it before the weekend. I'm not really sure why. I was thinking that it was wet, but obviously after I checked the times, I realised that it wasn't. It was dry, so I wish I'd kind of done that session. But either way, they'd done 49s already, and I wasn't getting anywhere near that on track. There was no way I was going to do that one, because even on track, I was just about keeping with them in my testing. So if we have a look down where we actually are in this session, 20th place, we're actually 5th when I ended the session, just to put it in perspective. And even those times ahead of us were simulated. I had to go back to the pits when I ran out of fuel, and those times were set in that period. I was actually top before I even did that. So it just really shows you that it is going to be another one of those tough weekends, I think, where we are towards the back. But I think I'm going to turn the difficulty down going into qualifying, just because those simulated times, there's no way I'm going to beat them. And even on track, they're actually pretty competitive. Like, I'm struggling to sort of get near their times. Like, they can genuinely do 50s on track, whereas I can't really do that. Only the top AI, but even still, I think they're maybe a little bit too fast for me. And with these simulated times on top, I think I am just going to turn them down. But we may as well head into Q1 now then, and hopefully we could try and get through, but I really doubt it. So here we are then in qualifying 1, and you can see, of course, we are last, because on the combined times, we were last based on their free practice 1 times. I think the slowest AI time was like a 50.2 or something like that. It was not 50.2. It was better than what the top time of FP2 was, basically, as well. So it's pretty much impossible for us to actually get through on the combined times. But maybe we can go through here, but I'm really not holding my breath, because I think it is just going to be more of the same. We have got Joel Kelso in here, which is promising, because of course we do need to beat him, and he's won 2 races this season, so maybe we could try and get ahead of him. But it also does mean that maybe it's quite a strong Q1, because sometimes you do get those ones. Sometimes it's a lot easier to get through Q1 than others. It does depend. So here we are then, about to start our first qualifying lap. In fact, actually we just did, as we went over the start line, as I said that one. Well, the finish line, sorry. So what's the line then? What is this first time going to be? A 51.7, so pretty consistent with what we've been doing so far. 1.1 seconds quicker than Via. I'm sure they are going to improve, because that would be very, very slow for them. But this is how it actually started in the free practice session as well. They started off with like 53s. It is bizarre. It really does feel like the AI are a bit broken out this circuit. I have turned the difficulty down to 95 for this qualifying session, so we'll have to see how it pans out with that difficulty. Going to improve by about half a second on this lap up towards the line. 1 minute 51.2, my quickest lap of the weekend, to extend our lead to 1.4 seconds over Colin Via now. We haven't really got enough fuel to go for another lap, because we have got enough to actually complete one more, but then we haven't got enough to do an in-lap. And of course, we want to limit those AI simulated times if at all possible. Although, to be fair, all of the methods I've tried to use to limit that haven't really seemed to work. Some weekends they've worked, some weekends they haven't. I think it is just a bit of luck of the draw. But really, they shouldn't be improving by like 1.4 seconds. Now, of course, their times are probably going to be a bit slower, because the AI level has been lowered slightly. But we'll see. We'll see at the end of the session, I suppose. So at the end of the session then, we did manage to top the session and go through to Q2, which is great. 4 tenths clear of Rueda in second place, Via a couple of tenths back in third place, and then just behind him, Asman rounding out the top 4. So I actually tried ending the session whilst on track this time. I don't think that's something I've done at all this entire season. I've tried that. That seems to have worked a little bit. I mean, maybe it is because of the lowered AI level. I'm not too sure. I only turned it down 5%, so I would have thought if the simulated times were like 2 seconds too fast, I would have thought they'd still beat me on the simulated times, but it does seem to have worked. I'll try this difficulty level again in Q2. Obviously, if we're too fast in that session, then I will turn it back down, but 4 attempts clear of guys in Q1 probably is about right, based on our pace throughout the season and throughout that whole weekend as a whole. So we'll head into Q2 now then, and see if we can fight for a top position on the grid. So I must say, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do in terms of tyres, because we're really running out. Last weekend, I think I made a point of saying that, oh yeah, we were fine in terms of tyres, but you can see I've literally only got one new medium left, so I think we're going to have to sort of use the one that we used in Q1, at least for this first run. In terms of soft tyres, we have actually got 2 left there, and we might have to use a hard for the race. It does depend, because the tyre does seem to heat up and wear out quite a lot, so we'll have to be careful of that one in the race. We have at least got 1 fresh tyre there, and it probably is the rear that's more important for the grip than the front. I think the front is fairly stable as long as it's not massively worn or anything like that. So we'll head out onto the track and see if we can top what we did in Q1. But that was my best time of the weekend, best time I've done on this circuit. Even in the little test race I did, it was better than what I did then. So I'm not 100% sure that we'll even be able to match it, because it was a pretty good lap for me. Well, Moreira has managed to find his way past us on this outlap, so we're in a pretty ideal position to get towed to a decent qualifying time. So here we are then, starting our first Q2 lap. Hopefully Moreira can drag us along, but you can see the gap he's already got just on the straights. Oh, I'm in the wrong power mode, that's why I'm in power mode 1, so that's probably going to ruin our lap completely. So up towards the line then, we managed to pass Moreira into turn 10 of 51.3, so pretty close to what we did in the previous session, to be quite honest. Tell you what, I'll take that, because I don't think we're probably going to improve. You can see obviously we're under already, but the rest of the lap was so good. I think it made up for that little bit of time that we lost on the straight, and it probably wasn't that much because we still had a slipstream after all. But currently we're almost 7 tenths clear of the entire field. It'll be interesting to see how it progresses across the rest of the session, of course, but a bit of a surprise. We actually did a very, very good lap time there. I'm pretty happy with that one. I think it does once again show that the player bike is much happier in the sunny conditions. I don't feel a massive difference in grip when I'm actually riding between the two, but every single time we have this, even if the session starts cloudy and it is sunny by the end, it's just not quite the same. So clearly the track temperature has a massive amount to do with finding that last few tenths of a second for the player compared to the AI anyway. But we'll have to see how this session does go, because I think we probably are going to have to turn the difficulty back up to what it was in practice. I just turned it down as a reaction because I saw they were so much quicker than me on the simulated times, and I just wanted to give myself a chance because I already thought I was lacking a little bit, but I guess the pace was fine as it was, and now they're a little bit too slow. So hopefully we don't sort of cheese a pole position with this, but if we do, I'll just have to put the difficulty back up to 100 again. Well, actually, at the end of the session, you can see it's pretty respectable. P6 there, 3 tenths off of Diogo Moreira, so perhaps I will keep it as it is, or maybe I'll just up it a couple of percent. Maybe I'll go up to 97 rather than keeping it on 95, because I don't have to go in steps of 5. It's just that you don't tend to see much of a difference unless you go steps of 5, if that makes any sense. It doesn't really alter a massive amount. So I think I will just put it up a couple of percent closer to 100 for the race, because I think maybe we have got a little bit too much time actually on the circuit itself. But you can see then Diogo Moreira, like we said, on pole position. Sasaki in second place. Obviously, he's pretty important for us this weekend, although so is Artigas, who I don't even see in this top 9, so that's good for us. Suzuki there in P3 as well, so those two Japanese riders have been pretty strong in the last couple of rounds. Holgado in 4th position. I don't know where Ortola is. Ortola's been miles down the order, down in 18th place. So Ortola last in the session, once again having to do a bit of a recovery ride. Obviously, he kind of fell out of the championship battle a little bit ago because he started to drift quite far behind, but he really is falling out of it, and that 3rd place is potentially under threat with the amount of races there is to go if he continues to perform quite poorly. But either way then, we will get into the race now then. I'll put the difficulty back up like I said, and let's see how we get on in the race and if we can have a bit of a scrap. So here we are then, down on the grid for the Catalan Grand Prix. We're looking at Sasaki there in 2nd position. I've now got the AI on 98%, so I've upped it by a few percentage there. Put it a bit closer to what it was in practice, because I felt like on track we had too much of an advantage over the AI. I know, of course, we already qualified P6, but that was with the simulated times, but I felt like on the circuit we had too much time over them, and of course that's what matters when it comes to the actual race. So we'll have to see how it goes. I don't know whether maybe we will have a little bit of an advantage still, but I guess we'll see as the race pans out. But in terms of tyres, I'm really not sure what to do this weekend, because the hard tyre might actually be the better option for once. We are being recommended it because how the tyre degrades at this circuit is a very high abrasive circuit. I'm just a bit scared that potentially the hard will just get stuck being cold. It's been like this before. It happened at Portimao, if you remember, when we had a pretty good pace there, but the hard tyre was really holding us back. So I'm not sure what to go with. Obviously, I've got against the decision quite a few times and it has worked. So I think I will just go with the soft. We'll risk it. We'll see what happens. We can always nurse the tyre if necessary. But of course, it is a Moto3 bike, so there's plenty of time on the straights where the tyre should cool down a little bit. And if we could try and get a bit of a slipstream, maybe we can also stop pushing so much through the corners some laps as well to try and look after that tyre. But I just feel like we're not going to have the pace on the hard tyre, and I've just got to give myself the best chance possible to get a good result. But without any further ado then, let's get this one started, see what we can do from 6th place on the grid.
The riders are ready for the start of the Catalan Grand Prix. The lights are on, and as soon as they go out, it's going to get wild.
So Moreira then on pole position. Can he win once again and extend his ever-increasing championship lead? The two Japanese guys on the end of the front row, and here we are at the back of the second row. The lights are on, waiting for them to get here for the Catalan Grand Prix. Lights out and away we go. Sometimes it feels like the lights hold for ages, but that time not so much. We've been jumped already by a couple of riders there. Onshu and Yamanaka getting past us. A bit of a situation we've got here from Jam and Masia as we go down towards the first corner. On the brakes up the inside. Can we make a few places up? A little bit of contact with Holgado. Again, a bit more contact with Holgado. So we're up to 4th place. But a decent start there. We've actually gained a couple off the line, although to be fair, it was all done on the brakes into turn 1. Our actual launch off the line wasn't anything special whatsoever. And here comes Masia trying to get up the inside. But so far, we are achieving all of the objectives we've got this weekend. Of course, we need to finish in the top 15 as per usual. And you can see the other two objectives on the left-hand side, sorry, the right-hand side of the screen. You can see we are achieving those. We're in front of Joel Kelso. We're currently in the top 5 in the championship if it ends like this. So we are doing everything we need to right now. So there we are then, down towards turn 7. You can see Holgado has already taken the lead. So after a couple of poor races for him, he is trying to strike back at his championship rival, Moreira. And to be honest, we got held up quite a bit by Moreira through turn 7. It wasn't ideal whatsoever. We kind of got a bit too close to the back of him. I couldn't really avoid him. And now we've got Masia trying to attack us on another Honda there. So we've got to be careful. We want to be the top Honda rider in as many races as we possibly can. But as we go down towards turn 10, are we going to have an opportunity? Oh, I thought about it. And to be honest, if I'd risked a little bit more, probably could have got at least on a Diogo there. But we've made enough enemies in the last few races that potentially we just want to cool it down a little bit and try and avoid contact with the AI as much as possible. So already being warned about the fuel at the end of the first lap. So again, it looks like it's going to be a bit of a fuel limited race, which is strange because the fuel consumption was supposed to actually improve with our mid-season upgrades, but it seems to have actually gotten worse, if anything. Moreira now takes 2nd position though, so the two guys at the top of the championship, 1 and 2, and Moreira is going to be looking to hunt down Holgado and take that race victory back away from him. We've got Sasaki now in front of us, and obviously Sasaki is our championship rival at the moment, one of them anyway. See RT Gas being the other. He's 1 point ahead of us in the standings, so if we overtake him, we'll be up into P4 in the championship. So down towards turn 7. Can we do anything to try and get past Sasaki? We're just going to go around the outside of him, apparently. Bit of a surprise. I was kind of thinking maybe more of an inside pass, but there we go. We've passed Ayumu up into P3 then now. Diogo Moreira ahead of us. And then Danny Holgado leading the race. We're actually pulling away from Joel Kelso as well. He's dropping further back. I guess that's because he's stuck in the pack. And here we got these sort of Moreira now up into 2nd position. So we're on a bit of a charge this lap, a bit wide though through turn 10. Surely going to allow Moreira back through. We've had to pick up the bike ever so slightly. And unfortunately, I think that's probably going to put us back in the clutches of Sasaki. Not quite yet. There, he's coming up the inside now. I was thinking that he wasn't actually going to pass us there, but he did. But maybe we'll be able to beat him to this penultimate turn around the outside. Oh, just about. We're just about keeping Sasaki behind us. So up onto the podium now then. It's been a while since we've had a podium. The Kazakhstan Grand Prix, I think, was the last time. So a couple of races off the podium. Be nice to get back on it, but a 51.4 then straight away for Holgado. As soon as he hits the front, starts to pull away. So he does mean business here, because that's pretty much up there with the qualifying times, to be quite honest. So all over the back of Diogo Moreira. Now we're really hassling, and we gained a lot on the run into turn 1. I thought about a move at the inside of turn 3 there, but it's just not really a passing place unless you pass from this part of the corner. You're not going to send it up the inside in the manner that we were previously, because it's just always going to result in a collision, and it's never going to go well at all. But around the outside into turn 4 though, don't mind if I do. Past Diogo, up into P2 now then. So Holgado is the next target. 1.6 seconds up the road though. So there's a bit of a gap yet to form. And I must say, this is feeling very reminiscent of Portimao at this point, because I'm pretty sure this is exactly how this race went, pretty much. We started to slowly pick them off. There's a guy a bit up the road, I think it's Moreira on that occasion. So we need to watch out if anyone's coming quick from behind. Well, I did say watch out for someone coming behind, and look who's in P3. Kaito Toba, and following him through the pack seems to be Ortola. Neither of those guys were in the top 8 last time I looked. And now, all of a sudden, they're 3rd and 4th place. I picked up a Trolobus warning because I'm so flabbergasted by it. And literally, he's gaining on us so much. I think Toba could be the Ortola of this race, where he's got so much speed. Seems like we're kind of finding a bit of a script to how these races work. It does seem like you get the same races playing out every so often. Obviously, at different circuits with different riders, but the same progression. Because, of course, at Portimao, Moreira pulled away. I tried to go with him and slowly started to catch him. And Ortola came from sort of nowhere, fought his way through, just blasted past everybody. And it seems like, well, Ortola could very well be doing this again, but so is Kaito Toba. So the gap is 6/10 to Toba. So again, he's took more time out of us. And I tell you what, I think Joel Kelso might be the guy that's in last place there if you look at the minimap, because Kelso is 7 seconds behind us. So I don't know what's happening. He just seems to have some massive problem in this race after literally winning the last one. Oh, well, now it's not Toba attacking us anymore. It's Ortola. Well, it is both of them, but Ortola is now the leader of the two. And they are coming through. And again, it does feel very similar. And actually, if you remember back to that one, the hard tyre was the recommended tyre there. And I actually went for it. This time I've gone for the soft. But it looks like the result is going to be the same. We're not going to stand a chance against these guys. They're just so much quicker than us. See, a 50.8 there for Ortola. That's the kind of times that they were doing in free practice that they couldn't get anywhere near. In fact, it's quicker than what everybody did in FP2, even with the simulations. So, I mean, that really does show you how much of a move Ivan Ortola is on. And here he comes up the hill. Nothing I could do. It's not even like a pass I could try and counter. He just completely rode past me like I was standing still. Maybe on the run down towards turn 10, I could try something. But he just needs to have more grip, more top end, just more of absolutely everything. And here we go up the inside of him into turn 10. I did say I'd try and counter him a little bit. He leans on us, to be fair, so he's a bit of our enemy, isn't he? So he's going to lead us a little bit. I do apologise for having a little bit of contact with him, but I had to pick the bike up slightly so that I didn't crash on the curb because, of course, he was leaning on me. And if you touch the curb, you do oftentimes go down. But Ortola then up to P2. I imagine Toba's going to go up to P3, so unfortunately it doesn't look like it is going to be another podium for us unless Holgado hits some tyre trouble in front. But to be fair, if anyone's going to hit tyre trouble, it's probably me, because we're about halfway through the race, or just completed about half the race. You can see I've got about half to go on the right-hand side of my tyre, so we could be in a bit of trouble in the closing stages, to be fair. I think the only way I could change the outcome of this race is to try and stick on the back of Ortola and go with him. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. It looks like Toba's basically going to ride on the green to get up the inside of us. He was on the curb, to be fair, but it was about to end onto the green. And we go back around the outside of him. We do still have the braking advantage over these guys, even though they've got much more grip than us. But there you go. He just rides up the inside of us like we're standing still. But you can see there's a gap of 3 seconds behind. So we really have pulled away from the rest of the AI. And up the inside we go of Toba once again. I want to fight for this podium. I've just seen that we've got a gap behind. I can afford to cost myself a bit. I just want another podium again. I really want one. Here he comes up the hill, just like Ortola did, although on the other side of me. And there he goes. It just seems like they've got superior... Well, it's superior straight line speed. Like, I think the idea is supposed to be like, oh, look, they're coming through with loads of pace. But clearly, like, the way the game is scripted, it just makes them go quicker on the straights. And that's how they make the lap time up. But we're going back up the inside of him into turn 10. It's a very similar situation. Again, getting pinched to the inside. This time with less contact, because I guess I was more ready for it. And maybe we could try to stick on the back of him, because to be fair, Ortola's not pulled that far in front of us. And obviously then there's not anyone for us to battle behind this time, whereas obviously we lost a bit of time to Ortola battling with Toba. I really don't know what I need to do to get a good result here though, like get a podium or to get a win. I know I've had a couple of podiums over the season, but there's always just some AI that are way quicker. Like, I mean, imagine if Moreira was second place, I'd be winning the race by miles here. But we've actually got a better straight line speed than Toba all of a sudden with that slipstream, and we've passed him back up into P3, so maybe this podium hunt is still on, because he was about this close to us at the start of the previous lap. We've managed to keep in there and re-overtake him. Maybe his pace is dropping slightly. I suppose he's probably not got quite as good a bike as well, obviously also being on a Honda, so obviously the KTM of Ortola probably had a bit more of an advantage, but we're a bit more evenly matched here being on the same bike. And back around the outside of him once again into turn 4. Maybe we can hold on to this, because there's not that many laps to go, to be fair. Well, I want a personal best here. We've actually stopped Toba from overtaking us in the place that we got overtaken on the last couple of laps. And actually does look like maybe we are closing on Ortola slightly, so maybe we're getting a bit of a second wind here now the fuel load's gone down a little bit. Speaking of fuel load, we're being warned again. I really wish I could turn that off. I might actually have a look in the settings, see if there is a way to do it. Because I actually like the fact that it flashes red, because it kind of brings it to my attention, like sort of subconsciously. But I don't like the sound playing, because the sound like plays in a really buggy manner. But there we go then, our personal best of the race then. You can see the game has literally just gone from completely sunny to cloudy. You've just witnessed that transition live with me. I was about to say it looks like it's getting a bit cloudy, but it's literally just gone from complete sunshine to complete cloudy, literally like a split second. So, are we going to get some rain? I don't think it actually can happen. You can go from sunny to rain. I think it can only go from cloudy to rain, but still looks pretty ominous. But look, we've actually extended our gap even more to Toba here, so we actually might be able to beat him. We genuinely might actually be able to beat him, because it seems like his pace has dropped off significantly. So here we are then, starting the penultimate lap of the race. Another personal best lap for myself. I'm now halfway between Ortola and Toba, so I've actually put a second into Toba, so we just need to manage this to the end now. We actually might have this podium. But to be quite honest, I just want to gain that little bit more time. I want to see if we can still beat Ortola, because he's still hanging in there. Even though he caught us at such a rate of knots, we've hung in there with him. I've actually been really happy with our performance in the second half of this race. Well, I think similar to Austria, we are going to have to turn our fuel down for this final lap. So unfortunately, I think we are going to have to give up the chase of Ortola. But we've got 2.2 seconds back to Toba now. So I think Toba, his tyres will have truly gone off, or whatever's happened to him there. We've broke him anyway. So we could just sort of cruise it home to the end now, lower the fuel mixture, and just make sure we make it back. And it's going to be back onto the podium for the first time since the Kazakhstan Grand Prix before the summer break. So our first one of the second half of the season. Somehow, even in Power Mode 2, I'm actually going under my time. I have no idea how I'm doing it. We closed up a lot there in turn 10 to Ortola, but unfortunately the AIR is better to the end of the lap now, so there's no chance of a Rossi kind of move, unfortunately. But I'll tell you what, I've pushed on this last lap to still be under in Power Mode 2. We've done a fantastic job. I'm really happy with how we've rode the second half of the race. Well, to be fair, the whole race was very well ridden from me, I must say. But here we are then, on towards the line. It's going to be back on the podium here for the Catalan Grand Prix. So there we go then, a very, very strange race in the end. I mean, the order, probably not too weird if you look at Holgado first or Tola second. That's pretty normal, but Holgado dominating that one. And those two really, really dealing some damage to Moreira, because you can see he's not even in the top 9 in this race. I don't know what happened to him, but he seemed to drop back massively. I guess it is one of those things where it is a bit scripted that one of the front guys will struggle in some of these races. We managed to come home with another podium, which is fantastic. Again, helps us out, I guess, in the championship as well. A bit of a strange end to the top 5, though, with Toba 4th and Munoz in 5th position. Tatsuki Suzuki 6th, Sasaki 7th. So Sasaki faded a little bit, but he actually wasn't as far down as I thought he was. Masia ended up in 8th place, and Artigas rounded out the top 9. In the Riders' Championship, then, you can see we've moved up to 4th place, which is great, because, of course, we needed to be in the top 5 at the end of this round, so that is fantastic to see that we have achieved that one. Moreira actually loses the championship lead with that one, so he was really starting to pull away from Holgado a little bit there, but a good race for Holgado, a win there, obviously 25 points. I think then, is that only about 5 points that Moreira would have picked up? So yeah, he lost about 20 points to Holgado then. Actually, it puts Holgado back into the lead of the championship. Ortola sort of bringing himself back into it a little bit now. He's only just over a race wins behind, so that's not too bad at all. I'm best of the rest, 50 points back of Ortola, so 2 race wins there. That's probably becoming increasingly more impossible as well. I was thinking that if Ortola's bad run of form continued, maybe we could get some points on him, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. As for the Team Championship then, there is some more change towards the top. Tech 3 moved back ahead of CF Moto, but pretty much everybody else stays in the same place. But there we go then, that is the Catalan Grand Prix back on the box for the first time in the second half of the season. And of course we achieved the turning point there by being in the top 5 in the championship, so we will be getting a new one of those. So plenty of stuff for us to do in the Career Hub, because of course there's also the social media stuff as well. So let's head back there and see what we get. So a pretty good weekend for us there. We gained 2,650 RP, so we're well on the way to becoming pro now instead of a rising star. We got 800 as a bit of a bonus there, and 1,850 for getting in the top 15. And of course, we have completed the turning point, raised the level, so we probably get a new one now. So New Horizons of Glory. Vision Track Racing Team's new objectives have galvanised Biker. Beating a standings rival such as Ivan Ortola in a race would confirm the good form shown. So, fortunately, we only have to beat him in a race. I saw him pop up and I was really worried, thinking that we're going to have to beat him in the championship now, which obviously is going to be pretty difficult because I was literally just saying that it looked like it was going to be more impossible. But beating him in a race, it's still going to be pretty hard, to be honest. It's not going to be very easy. It's very likely that we'll fail this one, but at least we have a chance at doing that, whereas I don't think we really have a chance at beating him in the championship. We've got 2 messages on the social media as well. Looks like we've got one from Ortola and Kelso, so my 2 enemies there then. We've got Kelso. This season is Long Biker. You'll see next time things don't go as well for you. So respond to that one. We'll be a bit kinder towards him because he's just kind of a bit bitter that we've beaten him there. And I kind of want to be a bit like, you know, the passive-aggressive niceness after we've beaten him since he is our rival. I don't think finishing behind once will make you give up. Every race is a story in itself. We'll have fun. So we actually put our reputation with him back up to neutral there, so that's not too bad. And here we go then, we've got Ortola. We finished the race, keeping Biker behind, and frankly, that's how it should be every race. Now we're aiming at getting our work acknowledged also at Misano's. There's a bit of a typo there, no space between also and at. Let's see what we can say. Races like that are okay, so it didn't go well, but the team and I will pick ourselves up again for the next race. And you were lucky, but the next race will be a different story. So again, we will just try to improve the relationship slightly, and we have. He now doesn't hate us quite as much, he just hates us quite a lot. So we have improved our reputation with Ortola very slightly. But there you go then, that was the Catalan Grand Prix. A pretty interesting race. Nice to be back on the podium once again. I do like the fact that the races seem to be playing out very differently in these career modes, because usually in the past they've played out all very, very similar. You've kind of just pulled away at the front or whatever, they've just been ahead of you the whole time. But it does seem to be pretty different, because sometimes you get like maybe 3 riders away at the front, but then this time you got 1 rider pulled miles away and then a bit of a group of us behind, and then there was a massive gap back to another pretty big group. And yeah, it was strange, because we've had races where we've come through at the end, obviously like Kazakhstan, a good example of that one. We really came through at the end, and I guess the structure of this was quite similar. I guess the only thing that is pretty much consistent throughout the whole season is that there tends to be a runaway leader whenever I do well, unfortunately. So still, that first win does elude us, but I'm sure it will come eventually, and the next round may be a good opportunity for it. If it's a dry weekend, we've got a chance, because Misano is always a weak track for the AI, and even in this game, it still is a bit of a weaker track for them as well. So potentially, we could try and take advantage of that. Obviously, we've got to try and win the race, really, because we've got to beat Ortola, so we don't really have much choice but to try and win the race at the very least there. Well, that's always our objective, of course, going into it, but I really do want a race win now, because we're on round 14 of 21. There's not that many to go, and we've still not even looked close to winning one, really. The closest we had, I guess, was Le Mans. But I hope you guys have enjoyed that one. If you are new to the channel, please do like the video and subscribe. It does help me out quite a lot. And of course, you'll get to see plenty more MotoGP 23 content then in your subscription feed. Career mode, game experiments, live GP, lots of different types of videos. So if you like MotoGP 23, this is definitely the place to be, and I definitely do recommend that you stick around. But like I said, I hope you did enjoy that one. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you'll stay safe, and I shall see you in the next one.